Hi, I'm John Milewski, host of Dialogue, a production of the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. And we're on the set of Dialogue, just completed a interview with Steve Lagerfeld, the editor of the Wilson Quarterly, and Sarah Courteau, the literary editor of the Quarterly and also a contributor to the current issue. I'll show it to you. Here it is. The City Bounces Back. 4 Portraits is the cover story. And we talked about this very attractive painting that was selected. Steve, talk to me about the current issue. What is the cluster, as you call it? What are the stories about?
John, we decided to take a look at sort of the bright side of the city story in America. There's been a lot of attention, and justifiably so, to places like Detroit and Cleveland and so on, where urban problems are really almost as bad as they were a few decades ago. But I think we need at the same time to appreciate that a lot of progress has been made in the last 30 years, and a lot of cities have come a long way.
Sarah, your piece is called New to the Neighborhood, a very personal tale. But what is it about? What does it illustrate?
Well, I'm talking about gentrification, which is one of the things that in these last few decades has come to really define and transform the city. And that is people, middle income people moving into traditionally poor urban neighborhoods. And I am a gentrifier. So I write about my experience and also talk to business people, longtime residents, to really get a sort of 360 take on what's happening in this neighborhood.
Here in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put you both on the spot, and I'll give you an answer so that you have time to think about yours. But one of my favorite things about your magazine is that I always learn many new things. I take tons of notes and do lots of highlighting. And one of the really fascinating things I learned that you always knew there was a connection between shopping and in the suburbs versus in the city, and how that costs the city revenue. But in the article on density, the author gives a specific statistic that for every $250,000 spent in retail sales, it creates 1 job, which is a very useful statistic. So I'm wondering, what did you learn new in the process of writing your article or putting together the issue?
Well, we like to think that people learn something from everything that's in the magazine. That's a big criteria of ours. I liked the thing about there being an AM and a PM side of a street as far as shoppers go. That the AM side is when people are driving into work, and on that side of the street you want to locate, coffee shops and bagel shops and dry cleaners and a whole different kinds of stores on the PM side of the street. I just love that little detail about the way we actually live.
How about you, Sarah? What's the new thing you learned that's most interesting to you?
Well, the thing was actually a big question in my piece, was whether people who have lived for a long time in a neighborhood are actually forced out when new residents with maybe more income move in. And the statistics actually show that that narrative which governs our discussions of gentrification isn't necessarily true. What happens is that the people someone moves out and then someone else moves in and takes their place who has a different demographic makeup. And I think that's a really key thing to keep in mind when we're talking about gentrification.
It's always fun when the conventional wisdom falls flat on its face, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, if you'd like to hear more from our guests and learn more about the cover story, come to the website, wilsoncenter.org. Look on the upper right-hand side. You'll see a tab for Dialogue, and you follow the links and you can see a complete 30-minute interview. And again, if you're not a regular reader of the Wilson Quarterly, shame on you. You ought to be. This is a subscription card. Subscribe. It's all yours. Okay, thanks.